If you're not familiar with Oklahoma, we are 49th in education and we are ground zero for the white Christian nationalist movement. We're being evaluated by conservative leadership on the best practice of rolling this out in other states.
In Oklahoma, the frustration is real and rising fast. Many Trump voters are now facing the harsh truth: rising costs, lost jobs, and fading promises of prosperity. In this video, you'll hear real stories from Oklahomans caught in the middle of an economic meltdown. Listen closely. The truth can't be ignored.
ICE raids in Oklahoma. Supposedly over the weekend they got 120 people. Truckers is what they're going after.
Oklahoma is very competent. I love Oklahoma. 77 out of 77 districts. And that's never been done before. I did it 3 times. I mean, think of it. 3 times. Never been done. Ronald Reagan had the record, 56 out of 77. I got 77 out of 77. So you have to love a place like that. I love Oklahoma. But you know what? If they get hit with a tornado or something, let Oklahoma fix it.
All right, my TikTok friends, I am here to get your opinion on the government shutdown. Because of partisan disagreements, it left over 800,000 federal employees without work. And another 700,000 without pay.
Something I find genuinely crazy in the great state of Oklahoma is that we're about to vote for governor pretty soon. And almost every single one of them has talked about Trump positively and that they are pro his agenda. Are you stupid? He is polling negatively, more so than he ever has. And you double down on that shit? Are you dumb?
Why is it in Oklahoma we can't offer free lunches to kids, but we can buy fully loaded crew cab trucks for one guy to drive around all day? And he gets to drive it home at night. Don't understand that either. You don't need a brand new truck, let alone a fully loaded one. You don't even need air conditioning. You just don't. How about we stop wasting our tax money on stupid things and start, I don't know, educating our children?
The Oklahoma House of Representatives has just declared a resolution saying that Christ is king in Oklahoma, which is gross and so beyond the concept of separation of church and state. It's hard to fathom.
I was willing to die and lost a leg in a foreign country fighting for their rights. There's no way I'm bending the only knee I have left for a king here in America. I can't sit idly by why rights are trampled on and ignored.
I will not bow before tyrants.
From 2003 to 2011, Oklahoma had a Democratic governor named Brad Henry, and under his tenure, they went from being 39th in student performance metrics to 30th, and in policy-based ranking, they were 17th. Now, under all Republican leadership, they are 50th in policy-based ranking, and in every other metric from teacher performance to student performance, they are ranked 48th to 50th. But the Bible's in schools.
Hey there, everybody. Oklahoma. What's wrong with you? We're ranked 49th in education in this country. Ranked 49th in the country. Only one state, I believe it's New Mexico, is worse than us. But yet, here we are, being led by the far-right Oklahoma State Superintendent, Ryan Walters, that pushes through legislation through a dominant Republican Oklahoma legislature that approves the false narrative, the untrue narrative, the discrepancies that Donald Trump pushed in 2020, that he supposedly won the election and that he didn't lose the election. Ryan Walters was able to push that legislation through our Oklahoma legislature, which is 80% Republican, and now it's going to be.
Next school year, Oklahoma teens statewide will have something new in their social studies curriculums, a section on President Trump's first term with a lesson centered on the 2020 election, where students will be asked to, quote, identify discrepancies in 2020 elections and the results by looking at graphs and other information, including the sudden halting of ballot counting in select cities in key battleground states, the security risks of mail-in balloting, sudden batch dumps, an unforeseen record number of voters, and the unprecedented contradiction of bellwether county trends. That right there is despite overwhelming evidence that there were no significant irregularities in the 2020 election results.
Why would you want Oklahoma students exposed to thoroughly debunked election conspiracy theories in the classroom?
Well, look, I've seen all those headlines too, and you know, here's the reality. Look, President Trump should have won the 2020 election. You know, you look at things like the ballot dumps, you look at the mail-in ballots, you look at the voter fraud, you look at the manipulation by the media and foreign countries, and look, what we've got in the standards are facts. We want critical thinking students, we want critical thinking Americans. We want them to look at the data, look at the statistics, and come to their own conclusion. We're not going to allow the left to force a narrative onto our kids, and so that's what we've
This
created.
isn't a narrative from the left, Mr. Walters. These are claims that failed time and time again in courts of law. People who I'm sure you know had the opportunity to bring quality evidence in front of judges, and they failed. So why would you want students to spend time on that?
Well, look, your own station reported some of the fraud. Your own station reported the batch dumps late at night. Look, it's about the facts, and they can come to their own conclusion. The students can look at these facts and say what happened in the election of 2020. But what we're not going to do is allow left-wing activists and the teachers' unions to come in and drive a narrative. Kids need to look at the facts. And listen, if I was the head of the most left-wing radical organization in the country that had the teachers' union, I'd hate these standards too. But the reality is we're going to teach Americanism, facts, and we're going to let kids come to their own conclusion on the election of 2020.
This doesn't really have a whole lot to do with teachers' unions. They're not even a party to this lawsuit. There are educators and families who are a party to this lawsuit against these new academic standards. You're being sued, by the way, by a lawyer who is a former attorney general, a Republican. And they're alleging basically that you tried to pull the wool over the eyes of fellow education leaders. I want to read this to make sure I get it right. Half of the Oklahoma State Board of Education claimed they were unaware they approved the standards in February, that the final version had significant differences from the version they had seen from your office in December. Were you trying to mislead them about what was in these standards?
Absolutely not. I mean, listen, some Republicans have been bought off with 30 pieces of silver from the teachers union. That's happening. But what we're going to continue
the teachers union isn't involved in this lawsuit, so it has to be someone else.
Come on now. The teachers union, the ACLU, they've been behind all these lawsuits against us. But listen, we stand by the facts. We're going to put facts forward and let kids decide. Listen, I know the left-wing media often spins a narrative and just forces it on folks, and facts bother them. Facts bother teachers unions. But what we're saying is, listen, kids, study this. Look at this. We want you to understand the elections. We want you to understand American history. And yes, the left is fighting mad because they've controlled our classrooms. The only reason we're sitting here talking about this today is because we're taking education back from the radical left. They're fighting mad about it, but we're going to get education back to an understanding of facts and history and let kids critically think. I think we should all be able to say we want critical thinkers. We want to be about facts, data, graphs, and charts. That's how we're going to study the election. That's how everyone across the country should be studying this election.
It's interesting that you keep bringing up the left. You talk a lot about woke teachers and indoctrination. But you quite literally tweeted this on X, or X this on X, on April 29th, calling these standards the most unapologetically conservative pro-America social studies standards in the nation. Is that not you kind of giving the game away there?
We have we're at a crossroads now, people. So on one side, we are going to move forward with how we always have been. And on the other side, we have to do something different. The thing is, we have people that are being elected that are not telling us anything. All they're saying is, I'm with Trump. I'm with Trump. We have another kind of people that are like, oh, well, I just don't want like woke. Tell me how you're going to help our healthcare. Because I'm hearing that there's a whole healthcare crisis up in Miami. Tell me how you're going to help our children. Because Oklahoma is having a big issue right now when it comes to, obviously, our education system. Our poverty levels are abysmal. We have one of the highest self-unaliving in the country. And I wish I could just say it for what it is. Say the ugly word. We have a problem in Oklahoma, and most of our people in power just want to ride off of Donald Trump's coattails. And this isn't even me bashing Donald Trump.
We did it, Oklahoma. We fucking did it. We are 50 out of 50. We are officially the dumbest fucking state in the United States of America.
So are we all just going to sit back and act like we don't see what's going on? If you speak out against a certain country, or if you go against a certain country, you're out of there. If you go to college and somebody that's a teacher or anything like that at that college says something against that certain country, they're cutting funding. Matter of fact, in the beginning of the year, they were talking about deporting U.S. citizens for protesting in favor of Palestine at a college. Yet we voted this same person in because of we wanted free speech. I remember last year when the left was talking about, oh, Trump's going to come out with Project 2025. I was like, yeah, Project 2025, let's go. Instead, what we got was much worse than what the left thought. We got Trump and Netanyahu in office, and Trump's doing tricks on it.
I'm making this video because I voted for Trump, and a lot of my followers are Trump supporters. And I fully expect that I will probably lose a lot of friends and followers because of this opinion. First of all, if we are friends and you can't see past politics to continue being my friend, I just want to say I don't hold any ill will towards you. I totally understand if you feel the need to unfollow me, block me, and not be my friend anymore. I respect it completely. I just don't think we have the same Donald Trump that we had circa 2016 to 2020. This is not the same man. Somewhere along the way, he lost his way. To deny help to tornado victims. Then I heard he denied further assistance from FEMA to North Carolina. This is not the man we voted for. If you are upper middle class or below, I don't see how any of us are faring well under this president. And how long are we just going to close our eyes to it and pretend it's not happening because it's him? And at least it wasn't the other guy. I will no longer stand by and pretend that I have hope in this president, because I don't. This past weekend, what he did last night was 1,000,000% unacceptable. And if any other president did that, everybody would be losing their marbles. The cuts he made to programs that help lower income people, these secret dinners with people wearing masks. It's just craziness at this point, guys. And I just can no longer stand here and say I support it, because I don't. No, I'm not a Democrat. I don't trust the government at all. But I just hope our friendships are strong enough that you guys don't base it just on something political. But understand, I fully expect that I will lose friendships. And I'm sorry to see you go, but I hope you can understand my side.
Across Oklahoma's small towns and cities, frustration is turning into doubt. Families who once believed in promises of change are now struggling to make ends meet. The movement they trusted is being tested by an economy that's left far too many behind.
A new bill has been filed in Oklahoma by, of course, Republicans, because I don't think there's more than like 4 Democrats in the entire state. And this bill says that every public university in the state must have a Charlie Kirk Memorial Plaza with a statue of Kirk and his family. Here's part of what the bill actually says. Each square or plaza shall include permanent signage commemorating Charlie Kirk's courage and faith and explaining the significance of Charlie Kirk as a voice of a generation, modern civil rights leader, vocal Christian, martyr for truth and faith, and free speech advocate. The square or plaza plans shall include a statue of Charlie Kirk sitting at a table with an empty seat across from him, or a statue of Charlie Kirk and his wife standing and holding their children in their arms as a central element of the square or plaza design.
Oklahoma made about $200 billion last year, which is around 30th. That's where you would expect a state of that population. However, their median household income was in the bottom 5. Their poverty was 6th worst. Their schools were the absolute worst. 2/3 of their hospitals have no labor and delivery unit. And half of their hospitals are in danger of closing. Those are just the various important stats that I use to measure how a state is taking care of its people. I also find it very interesting that they proposed $3 million in Bible costs to put Bibles in the classrooms in Oklahoma, blatantly violating the First Amendment.
And like they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Yep.
I'm a blue dot in Oklahoma, and after the last election, every time I'd be going down the road or out in public somewhere, I could not help but think, oh my God, I am surrounded by Trump supporters, right? Like, everyone here voted red.
And to those of you who say, I don't get involved in politics, I don't discuss politics, I don't pay attention to politics, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because literally every aspect of your life is political. Where you work, what you eat, where your kids go to school, what they learn, what you're exposed to. It's all political. Everything in your life is political. So if you are choosing to stick your head in the sand and say, I'm just not a political person, that's the easy way out. You might as well say, I really just don't care.
I need people in the state of Oklahoma to hear me and to really listen. I don't care what way you lean. I don't care. If SNAP benefits do, in fact, pause on November 1st, I need you to understand that in the state of Oklahoma, not talking about national statistics, in the state of Oklahoma, 1 in 6 people is on SNAP benefits. If you genuinely think that 1 in 6 people does not work, I can't help you. But in this state, 1 in 6 people is on SNAP benefits. Nationally, 1 in 4 children is on SNAP benefits. That means that if you know 12 people, statistically speaking, 2 of them are on SNAP benefits.
Oklahoma was the last state to repeal prohibition. We repealed it in, I believe, 1959, even though the constitutional amendment happened, I think, in 1933. Now, Will Rogers, the famous Oklahoman that our airport is named after, famously said that Oklahomans will vote dry as long as they can stagger to the polls. And he also coined the term bootlegger Baptist, which is a stereotype of Oklahomans, meaning that we want to be perceived as righteous and upstanding and moral and Christian and godly people, but in reality, we're not.
This video is for people in Oklahoma. If you're not from here, feel free to scroll down. Did you know our state exported $1.9 billion to Canada and $630 million to Mexico in 2023? Both Canada and Mexico have been our largest trading partners for decades. How do I know that? I used to be the director of global services for the state of Oklahoma.
As somebody who lives in a red state, let me just tell you what MAGA supermajorities get you. We're 50th in education, the worst in the whole country for women to live. We're poorer, worst health care. And if you look at the bottom 10 states in the United States of America, they are all MAGA supermajorities. These policies hurt people. They use people's faith to lure them in and say, oh, we're family values, but then they don't vote to help women have children. They don't vote for health care. They don't vote for child care. They demean the poor. I live in a red state where these policies, Oklahoma, and these policies have horrifically impacted people in rural America that vote for this very party because they weaponize their faith and lure them in.
Hey, real quick, to the almost 250,000 Oklahomans who are about to lose their Sooner Care, I want you to know that it was Republicans that did that, okay? 3 times, House Democrats were trying to save your health care. We're trying to save Medicare, Medicaid, and Sooner Care for Oklahomans. And 3 times, Republicans voted against it, okay? They wanted to put an amendment that says, hey, if you make $10 million or more, then you don't get a tax break, and that will help save health care for Americans. And House Republicans voted no. And then they tried again. They said, hey, people making $500 million or more, how about we not give them a tax break and save Americans Medicare and Medicaid and your Sooner Care? And they voted no. Republicans unanimously voted no to not save your Sooner Care. Oh, and then they tried a 3rd time to try to save you and your health care, and House Republicans voted no. They voted no because they wanted to give billionaires who already have enough money to spend $1 million a day for the next 500 years. But no, they need more money. They need more money. You don't need your health care. You don't need it. You don't need health care. Who needs health care? Those billionaires deserve another tax break. They deserve that money because they worked hard. They worked for that tax break. You obviously didn't work. That's why you don't get your health care. So anyway, when you lose your health care, when you lose your Sooner Care, you can thank Republicans for that. So when they start kicking out old people and they start not accepting old people in the nursing homes because they don't have those benefits anymore, again, I want you to thank Republicans for this, because this is what you voted for. This is what you voted for them to take away your sooner care, for them to take away your Medicare and Medicaid. Because what's more important, the American people being happy and healthy, or billionaires getting tax breaks? The answer is billionaires getting tax breaks. That's what's more important to our politicians in this country. So just so you know who to blame when you lose your health care, may you have the day you deserve.
Oklahoma just got called out for unprecedented financial mismanagement. We're talking tens of millions of your taxpayer dollars at risk. So this comes from the federal audit of Oklahoma's finances for 2023. Auditors flagged nearly $93.4 million in spending that was either against the rules, undocumented, or just plain wasteful. Add that to the last 3 years, and Oklahoma has racked up $186 million in bad spending. And here's the kicker. If Oklahoma can't prove this money was used right, the federal government can demand it back. That means higher federal taxes, higher state taxes, and cuts to the services you and your family rely on. The audit found that the Office of Management and Enterprise Services mismanaged $21.8 million meant for rental assistance during the pandemic. That left more than 7,600 Oklahomans denied the help they qualified for. And the Department of Human Services failed to safeguard over $63.6 million meant for child care and welfare programs. State Auditor Cindy Bird said it herself, Oklahoma has a culture of financial mismanagement, and until we fix it, we're the ones stuck paying the bill. Now you let me know, how do you guys feel about Oklahoma mismanaging so much of our tax dollars and us having to potentially pay it back?
State Board of Education just finished up their July meeting. If you're not familiar with Oklahoma, we are 49th in education and we are ground zero for the white Christian nationalist movement. We're being evaluated by conservative leadership on the best practice of rolling this out in other states. Here in Oklahoma, they're using tactics like PragerU. PragerU is a far-right propaganda platform tailored for students. The experiment does not need to be complete in order for us to understand what's going to happen. They're going to be taught revisionist history. So everything that they're learning in school, in their books and on videos, is going to be completely different than what they see in real life. That's going to cause some cognitive issues. It's going to isolate kids who come from families with different backgrounds. With discriminatory policies, kids are going to feel like they don't belong. They're going to feel like outsiders. And with discriminatory policy, there's going to be little the parents can do about it. There will be no separation of church and state. All schools would be religious schools. They will be indoctrinated. They will be deprived of independent thought. They will blunt critical thinking skills. They will blunt social skills. They will confuse your kids about what's reality and what is fiction. The Awarity platform that was designed to discourage bullying will be misused, and teachers who don't conform and students that don't conform will be reported. Organizations like Libs of TikTok will dox you, and they'll dox your kids. There will be loyalty tests. Students who are being bullied now for thinking differently will have no remedy, with no mental health resources, because kids will no longer trust the system. This isn't just going to affect our kids. This is going to affect everybody's kids. That's what we're looking at. As a side note, as I discussed in one of my other videos about PragerU, call your school and make sure that they're not using those materials on your kids. Tell them that you want to opt out of PragerU material and content. Get on the phone with your governors.
What's happening in Oklahoma isn't just an economic story, it's a human one. Families are working harder, earning less, and realizing the promises they believed in haven't matched reality. The frustration spreading across the state reveals a deeper truth about trust, leadership, and accountability. These voices matter because they expose the real cost of political decisions that affect everyday lives. If this message resonates with you, please like, comment, subscribe, and share to keep these stories alive. And click the video on your screen to see what's really happening across America's changing heartland.